start asking ourselves about the possibility of life elsewhere. So finding even a microbe, like even amoeba on Mars would be, or even evidence that there used to be amoeba on Mars.
What is the evidence that they discovered on Mars?
What they found was organic chemistry, right? And so, but organic chemistry, man, I hated electrons growing up. And I hated organic chem, was that's just basically chemistry involving carbon. So you can have organic chemistry doesn't mean organisms, but it's the kind of chemistry that organisms love, right? So finding evidence that there was they drilled, amazing, we sent a freaking robot to Mars that could drill through a rock, and then ingest the rock, and it's like,
and then send the data back across space.
And we're, pretty good project.
Yeah.
So what they found was evidence for fairly complex organic chemistry, which meant that way back when Mars, and this we know for sure, right? Mars had water on it. We know that for sure now. Mars was a blue planet for.
Did they think that Mars was hit by an asteroid or a comet or something along those lines?
Oh, everything got hit by comets. That's how we have, we have chunks of Mars here, right? That, the thing in '96 or whatever, when they were like, oh, we found life on Mars. They thought what they found was fossil bacteria in a chunk of Mars that they found in Antarctica. So the planets have been swapping spit for the entire history of the solar system.
That's fossilized bacteria that they found. Has that been confirmed?
No. Most people now think that the Allen Hills meteorite, that probably, it's inconclusive, and it's not conclusive enough to be like, yeah, we found life.
It's like a tiny little squiggly worm looking.
That's what it was, yeah. But it was so small that it was way smaller than any of the microscopic fossilized bacteria we've ever seen before. So people in general are like, meh. But that's what started, right? That's when Clinton was like, okay, we're going to send a lot of shit to Mars. Because back in early 90s, people were kind of done with Mars. And so that's what triggered the whole, one space probe after another, the rovers. And the thing we found was a direct result of that effort, which was this organic chemistry, which says that back in the day, Mars had a lot of this stuff lying around, had a lot of these, these organic chemicals lying around, which if you're life, that's what you're going to be using. So it's like one more step, like we've been putting the Lego blocks for the argument for life on Mars, one piece at a time since the first rover.
Yeah, if we did discover just even plants on some other planet, even just a planet with some sort of plant-like life.
Yeah, that'd be a game changer. That'd be a game changer. Because right now we don't know if are we the only time in the entire history of the universe that this crazy thing where we went from non-life to life? Is that common, or is that never ever happen? So that's the question we want to answer. That argument I was given before is, I think, from the probable arguments, I'm saying it's it's almost overwhelming that it probably happened somewhere. Again, doesn't mean anything is here, but we need evidence, right? Science. So we got to build that evidence.
Yeah, and if we do find something, one of the weirder things would be if we found something and there was a way to get there.
Yeah.
We find something and we find something, but we're pretty sure there's some kind of life and it's 3 billion light years away. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, what do we do?
Yeah, it's nice to know that we're not the only ones.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. How much would that change? Even if we found evidence for this is a debate. If we found evidence of a technological civilization, we saw alien megastructures like that star they thought.
Yeah, what was that nonsense?
That wasn't really nonsense. It was
it was something floating around, right?
Well, so here's what they saw. So that the way we discover planets is we look for when the planet passes in front of the star, you get a little dip in the light, right? It blocks out a little bit of light, like a little eclipse. And so that's how we know that every star in the sky has planets. But there's they found one that just made no sense. Dip, then it would stop dipping, and dip again 3 times. It would stop dipping. Sometimes it was lower, sometimes it was higher. And for a year, so and so Jason Wright and others, Jason's a friend of mine, they wrote a paper where they were like, hey, at least, because this is what the future's going to look like. We have to at least consider the possibility that these are artificial structures that are orbiting the star, or
it would have to be ungodly huge.
Ungodly huge, alien megastructures.
Yeah.
That's the best word ever.
Like the size of a country, right?
Yeah, these things would be huge, right? But that's what people think, when people think about advanced alien civilizations, the idea of building large-scale structures is, you think that maybe the next thing you do once you reach a certain point, the Dyson sphere, the idea you could all of the sun's energy and use it for yourself by building a giant sphere around the sun with solar panels on it. Like, people think, like, it goes back to Kardashev's, the idea of this Kardashev scale back in the 60s, where he's like, look, there's going to be a natural progression of civilizations that goes first, you collect all the energy you can from your planet, and then you use that to do amazing things. And then you collect all the energy from your star, and then you do that, and you do amazing shit with that. And then, the whole galaxy. So Kardashev thought there was a scale that civilizations naturally progress through.
And you hopefully don't blow yourself up along the way.
Well, I think that's the question. I mean, I've criticized the Kardashev scale in one of the papers I recently did, because what it fails to take into account is the fact that, like, on your way up to the Type 1. Type 1 is when you harvest all the energy from your planet. Basically, when you're somehow covering your planet in solar panels or something. That neglects what we've learned since Kardashev wrote his paper in '64. Is that the planet's going to feed back. You try and build massive shit on your planet. The planet has its own. Biospheres are pretty powerful. You got to take the biosphere into account, or you get climate change. You get the planet being pushed off in another direction. So, but whatever. So for the alien megastructures, people are like, oh, maybe this is like a piece of a nice. Like, and so, when he proposed this, people went bonkers over this, right? He was just saying, he's like, look, here's the 15 different things could be, and I'm going to have to at least consider the possibility that it's artificial. But for me, and some people got really angry and everything, but I thought, like, this is...
Why'd they get angry?
Because there's been a thing in the community over the years. SETI got a bad name, right? SETI, for a bunch of... SETI was sort of thought as being like, oh, only wackadoodles do that. And,
but why is that? Just because there was no results?
I just think, there was... You know what it is? It's because of shitty TV. I mean, I really, in some ways, right? It's all, it's prosthetic foreheads, right? It's the whole... We've had so much kind of crappy, speculation about aliens. They're trying to do anything scientific. Always had this whiff of sort of being a little, and then there's the UFO stuff, which is completely separate, has nothing to do with it.
But SETI never really achieved any results, right? There was that one big blip that was highly popularized.
The wow signal.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about SETI, we never really did SETI that much. You know what I mean? Like, people have this idea, like, wow, we gotta tell all over the world, and they're looking, so the government never funded a SETI study, anything major, right? So people, all that SETI has done is, like, basically, some dudes on a telescope get a little extra time, like, hey man, quick, let's go look at a star,
right.
So Jill Tarter, who's one of the founders, one of the greats of SETI, she compares it's like, we got an ocean that we need to look at, and so far we've looked at a thimble, right?
Was she the Jodie Foster character?
She's the Jodie Foster character.
In Contact.
Yeah. So she's, and it's a good point. Like, we haven't really looked yet. So the idea that, the stars are silent or anything, it's like, man, come on, we haven't even begun to do a comprehensive survey.